live.
Hi, and welcome to a very, very, very special episode of SparkFun Live. It is prom season, and we are reliving our teenage days with some awesome projects. We've got a few different things going on today. We've got Amanda, who's going to be interviewing our beautiful models, showcasing a few projects in action.
Yes.
And I'll be here talking about how they work, a little bit more detail about how you build them, and kind of the nitty-gritty of things that you can't see when they're built into a costume. My name is Angela. I'm the E-textile specialist in the education department. And
I'm Amanda, and I'm the project manager of education. Welcome, welcome. Yay!
So let's get started. So we're going to bring out our first models, and Amanda's going to ask them a few questions about their project.
Come on over. You are looking lovely this evening. Hello.
Thank you,
hello.
Amanda.
Please tell me your names.
I'm Danny.
Grab mic.
Excuse me. Sorry, I got this little thing here.
Oh, no worries.
Please tell us your names.
I'm Danny.
Danny, nice to meet you.
And I'm Sandy.
Oh, Sandy, you guys, such a pleasure, such a pleasure, such a pleasure. So please, tell me a little bit about your lovely outfits here. Could you,
Please go ahead with your flower.
how did you, what made you decide to pick that dress?
Well, I just always look so good in oranges, so I decided why not.
All right. Cool. Can you tell me a little bit about what it does?
Yes, of course. This has a really fantastic light sensor in it, and when it gets darker, things light up.
Very cool. Maybe we could hit the lights. That would be great. Anybody want to hit the lights?
It adds to the sparkle of that lovely dress.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's so beautiful. Tell me a little bit about your bow tie here.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
This is a micro view. It's made from SparkFun, and it's been attached to the center of the bow tie such that it should have a little heart on it.
Yes.
Yes. When I complete the circuit on the edges of the bow tie here, it starts to pulse.
Oh, so very cool. Wow. Very neat. How beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Yes. And tell me a little bit about your bow tie as well. I'm sorry, not your bow tie, your
My boutonniere
your
here?
boutonniere, yes.
Well, lovely Sandy over here made this boutonniere for me. This has several LEDs in it and put
Okay.
together with the LilyPad. There's a battery on the bottom here that has a switch, so I have it on already. But then underneath here you see some more switches, and I can control the color. As I turn them on and off, you see it changing colors on this.
Very nice. Very, very cool. Wow. You guys look so fantastic tonight. I'm so just excited for you. So how do you feel? How is everything going tonight? Is everything going just smashing or what?
So far, so good. We'll see what happens at the end of the night.
We're
Yes.
excited. We have Italian food with us, and it was delicious.
Do you plan to dance?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Well, maybe you should show off some of your dance moves right now.
Okay.
What do you think?
We
Sounds
can do
good
that.
to me.
So lovely. What a beautiful couple.
Thank you.
So Angela, why don't you tell us a little bit about those projects that we were just
So you
discussing?
saw them in action, and you got some descriptions, but what's actually happening inside of there is so beautifully hidden that it looks like magic, which is sort of the fun of prom, magical evening. So let's talk about a little bit about corsages and the color changing. So I've got a few things out on the table here. This is actually a tutorial that we just made live this week, so if you want to build one of these at home for your prom or your next special occasion, you can. We're using a silk flower that has an RGB LED actually built into it, so you don't have to stick anything else on there. You can just use this and implement it into your project. I think we're going to give a few close-ups of that too. So here is the flower. You can't see anything right away, but then if you flip it over, you see the leads are ready to solder into a project. So what we're doing is we're actually gonna, I won't build it right now, but I'll show you a little bit of my technique here. So to attach this to something that's sewable, they're not really easily sewable with these leads the way they are. We can bend them with some pliers to make little loops for conductive thread. It's a little hard to see with this close-up cam here. There's one little loop. And if you go to the tutorial, it has some nice studio photos that you can see a little bit better. But there's one loop. We're also going to attach some resistors to these. So you can pick up a little baggie of resistors and do the same sort of looping process with your pliers or solder them together. And then those will each be connected to one of these LilyPad switches. So you get a little switch there. And then you can connect them together with a conductive thread, and that's how they were changing the color. So each one is going to each pin on the RGB LED. One for red, one for green, one for blue, and depending on the combination that you use, you can match your outfit as close as you can. It's all powered by a little coin cell battery holder with an on-off switch. And then it's sewn down onto just a piece of felt or a piece of fabric, whatever works best for your outfit. And then maybe you want to put a little decorative ribbon to help hold it on, or you can pin it onto a project. So I have a couple examples here of other ways that you could do it. So this one was from some things I found at the craft store, added a little bit more decoration, made it more of kind of a gothy feel, so the light will shine just in the center of this one instead of lighting up the whole thing. So you can see a little bit there. There's a green. I can start turning these on and off and change it up there. So you can use the flower with the pre-built-in LED, or you can just kind of find your own style and stick a regular RGB LED in there. So that was the first project.
Angela, I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
For our audience. Was there EL wire piping the car seats, do you know, in the video?
No, that was just the fabulous green that came with the upholstery in that car. So we did not hack the car. We should have, though. That would have been really fun. So the next project, we didn't really get a good view of it in action because of our lighting situation, was the light sensor dress. So I've had a little extra time to put one onto an embroidery hoop so you can really see what it's doing. This one, if I turn it on, has a LilyPad controlling it, and then a light sensor, so when it gets dark you see this twinkling effect. If I restart it, it sets a threshold at the beginning of the program, so it will only change when your lighting situation changes. So as I move it up and down within the spotlight, you can see it's getting covered up and changing. So this one only uses a few LEDs. Hers had LEDs all throughout it. You can kind of hook up as many as you want within the constraints of your battery in your system. That one was all done with conductive thread, just like this one, and it was stitched into the lining of the dress. That's going to be a tutorial that's coming soon. Also part of our E-textiles intermediate class that's happening in May. If you happen to be local to SparkFun, you can come check that out in person. So when we're ready for our next models, we'll bring them out. But while we're waiting for that, I'm going to talk a little bit about hooking up these LEDs. So they're a little different than the LEDs you might have seen on other LilyPad projects. They are actually pixels. So they are addressable LEDs. Usually when you see addressable LEDs, you see an LED strip that you can code and program. These have the same address and same code. You just hook them up with the conductive thread. And you can see there are 3 little lines of stitching here. There's one for power, one for ground, and one for the signal that goes from LED to LED. And the output of one LED goes to the input of the next LED so that you can actually address them down the chain. They don't have to be in a line just like this. They could actually be in any configuration, and what you do with the stitching is really up to you. And they each have a number that you can talk to in the code, and then you can make a twinkling effect, you can do rainbows. We'll see a couple other projects today that have different effects with these same pixels, so they're pretty open-ended as far as what you want to do with them.
Hey Angela.
Yes.
Tell us about one of your favorite projects.
One of my favorite projects.
Yeah.
I don't want to give it away. My favorite project will be showcased at the end of this show, so stay tuned for that. It was a fun last-minute project, so I'm a last-minute crafter. And the thrill of not knowing if you're going to finish it or not is really fun for me. So we did a lot of projects for this show, and we had a couple new ones, so they're a surprise even to our models, I think. So we'll see that one a little later.
Super excited for that.
So I'm going to clear off a little bit of this, get ready for the next thing that we're going to talk about. While I'm clearing off all this stuff on the table, I'll talk a little bit about what's going on here. I've got random craft materials, so I got some ribbon, I've got some conductive fabric, so if you're working on a project and you don't want to use a thread, you can actually stitch down conductive fabric into your piece. I just cut a little strip of it, so this can become my power line for something, and it's got a little give to it, so for any kind of costumes that you're going to be dancing in or moving around a lot in, you don't want to put a lot of pressure on the thread, you can use this stretch fabric and iron it on or stitch it on and then connect it as you would with a regular conductive thread. this is just some more. I've got a little swatch book here. Anyone who's into apparel design will have probably one of these. It's got just different kinds of thread. So we've got thicker threads, thinner threads. The thread that you see that comes on the bobbin is a pretty standard thread that we sell at SparkFun. You can also get a thin thread for projects that need a lot of fine details, or you can get a thicker thread for big kind of power lines. And that's what we did on the pink-orange dress. We put a bunch of power lines together, so we used the thick thread. This is an example of the thin thread. Get out of the shadow there. So it comes in a little cardboard swatch like this, and you can see it's a little bit shinier, it's thinner, it's a little harder to work with hand sewing, so this is best for kind of detail work, or if you're going to stitch it as little accents. Not the best for hooking up components onto each other because the thread will actually slip away from itself, so you can use a little bit of nail polish or glue to kind of hold the ends so that knots don't unravel. If you braid this together, it will actually lower the resistance of the thread. So this is what I've been working with a lot. In projects where you're going to go from the top of a dress to the bottom of a dress, you have to go a long length of thread. You're actually going to lose your power because the resistance of the thread will add up over that distance. So a way to avoid that is to actually braid it together or group it together, and the more of the thread that's touching the other thread, the less resistance you're going to have down that line. So you can use a zigzag stitch of regular thread to just kind of hold that down to the fabric, or when you braid it, it gives it a little bit more sturdiness. And then you can actually use your regular conductive thread from the bobbin to then connect to that line of thread and then connect your components. So that's one method to use.
I have another question
Another
for
question
you.
from Amanda.
Yeah, this is another one from our audience. Can the thread be used in a sewing machine, conductive thread?
So the thread actually is sold on a bobbin, which means it's great for just put on the bobbin of your sewing machine. The trick with the top thread is that it has to go through so many windings and so many tension points of your machine that there's the chance that it'll actually snap and break, and then it will defeat the whole purpose of doing a long line of thread with your machine. So we recommend doing it in the bobbin. If you are really in tune with your sewing machine, you know the tension settings, you've got some practice with that, you can do it in the top thread too, but it may not be as consistent. The other thing about using it in a sewing machine is you don't need it in both the top and the bottom thread to make an electrical connection. You just need it in one place to connect the components. So if you want to put it on the bobbin and use a regular cotton thread on top, that'll work just fine. You can actually stitch it on the bottom and not even see the conductive thread, and that helps you give it a little bit more invisible, magical feel too. So I think we're ready for our next models and our next projects.
Yeah, yes. Come on down. Come on down the magic red carpet. Oh my gosh, who are you? Whoa.
My name's Alina.
I'm Sean.
Wow, you guys look so snazzy tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Wow, so what brings you here tonight?
Well, prom, obviously. We're here to dance and show off.
Yeah, are you guys in 12th grade or what?
Totally.
I'm still a junior. Actually, I'm in 11th grade.
Oh, okay, okay.
I like.
Ooh, you like robbing the cradle, huh?
By a year, that's a big difference in high school.
Awesome, so tell me a little bit about what you're wearing tonight here.
Lots of things.
Okay.
So let's start at the bottom. Mm-hmm. You've got
Whoa,
shoes.
those are fantastic. Can you do a close-up on those shoes, please? Wow. So what's your favorite color?
Orange.
Yeah? Awesome. Very beautiful. So can you show us the back of the shoe too?
Oh, yes, of course.
Very cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, so that's awesome. All the way around, very cool. And then tell us what's going on down here.
So in this dress are LEDs and potentiometers, and it basically lights up from the inside out.
Very pretty, love it. Cool.
The potentiometers are here.
Yeah,
Actually,
so there's
they look like part of the dress.
Okay.
So you can change it by moving these knobs.
Right. Oh, that is so cool. Very awesome. And tell me about you.
Well, this top hat was specially made.
Yes.
There's a FIO inside controlling these lights with a battery so it stays on, and then there's a switch over here. I can change that, and that changes the mode of the LEDs.
Oh, so cool. Wow. That's awesome. So which mode do you like the best?
Rainbow, obviously.
Of course.
Most colorful.
Yes, definitely. Very nice, you two. So tell me, what have you been up to at this party so far?
Well, I've just been hanging around the punch bowl over here,
Oh yeah?
waiting for a good song to dance with my date.
Oh yeah, what's a good song entail?
Go ahead.
I would say something classic and with a good swing to it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Johnny B. Good. That needs
right.
to be played at every prom.
Awesome. Awesome. Very good. Well, you guys are looking fantastic. Enjoy your evening.
Thank
You
you.
too.
All
Thank
right.
you, Amanda.
Yes. Goodbye. So Angela, please tell us a little bit about those projects.
Let's talk a little bit more. So these two projects also had, actually 3 projects technically on there, had the adjustable pixels in them too. And maybe if one of our assistants can bring me one of those shoes, I'll show you how those work. But here's what's going on in that dress. Again, we're powering it from a LilyPad. And here's an example of these potentiometers. So I've got it turned onto a switch so that when I turn the switch off, let's see if we can get a good close-up here. When I turn the switch on or off, I can decide whether or not it's reading the potentiometers so it doesn't accidentally knock the dress when we're dancing or moving around. So right now it's set on one color because I turned the switch on. If I change it, then I will get these adjustments. So there are 3 potentiometers in here, 1 for each color channel. So kind of like how the corsage was working, we get to choose, but now we're using analog inputs, so we get a much bigger range of values and much more color combinations than just the 3 on-off switches. It's a little hard to see the color from this video, but it's very bright. You can see a little purple going on there. We can change a little blue and adjust. The other thing that was happening in that dress was that we were hiding those potentiometers by integrating them with beads, gluing some little things onto them so that they worked really well with the embellishments on that dress. That was a nice thrift store find that we found. And we also found one with cutouts for the windows for the LEDs. So we didn't have to do any extra stuff to the dress. So if you're planning a project and you know you want to have LEDs kind of diffuse, kind of keep an eye out in your closet or at the store for things that could be little windows or places that you could put a little extra fabric to diffuse the LEDs. Right now, these just kind of look like little spotlights. It's not as interesting as when you start to add things on top of them and really integrate them with the project.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
What type of potentiometer is used in that dress?
So there, you've got a couple different options. The ones that work best are ones that are kind of low profile. So we found some that were flat. They made a good surface to glue on the beads as well, and then you can just cut a hole in the fabric around it and stick it in there. These are actually, they don't come on these little boards, we soldered them together, and there'll be another tutorial coming in a couple weeks on how to do that. I'll show you the basics. So we got a little proto board and we found a potentiometer, and we just kind of soldered them on there with some leads for the sewing. And maybe we can get a close-up of these just so you can see how those come. There's a couple different options for that. There's one where you can just solder in here. This is a standard proto board, and solder some wires, stick the potentiometers right in there in your configuration, or if you want a little higher profile one, there's this little blue knob. And then there's also LilyPad boards that have the sewable tabs built right in. These are a little bit different than a regular proto board because all the traces are connected. So once you decide where things are going to go, you have to cut those traces. So it's a little bit of a different method, and we'll be describing that more in the tutorial. It's got lots of fun stuff. Another thing that was going on with the shoes, because when you're working with shoes, you don't have a lot of room. Unless you've got big platforms that you want to cut into. So we used a LilyTiny that we reprogrammed, and there's a tutorial on that on SparkFun as well. So LilyTiny, you can see how much smaller it is than a regular LilyPad. So you can fit it into a lot smaller projects, more discreet, and then for this one, it's actually hidden under this little embellishment in the bow. So all of the components, other than the LEDs, are hidden under this little bow and Velcro. Let's see if we can get a little. It's not the best craftsmanship. These have actually gone to a party and been used, so they did hold up, but the paint came off. This is all wiring down here. You can see where it rubbed off here. We just painted that black to blend in with the shoe. It's hooked up to an LED strip here and an LED strip on the back. And then this nice crystal stuff is from the craft store just to embellish and to also hide the rest of the LED strips. Let me see if I have a bare one that we can show what it looked like before. So this was what you get when you use an LED strip, and you can actually just paint the contacts that you're not soldering to and hide the LEDs under little crystals or gems. I have an example on my table as well of those. So these are little things from the scrapbooking aisle or the apparel aisle of the craft store. They've got a great shine to them, but they also have a backing. So if you want anything to shine through these, you have to actually scrape off the mirrored backing or any sticky part with an X-Acto knife, and then you can hot glue them right on top of the LEDs, and you get this little diffused crystal. Looks a lot better than the bare LEDs. Let's see if we can get this one here. So,
I have another question for you too.
yes.
So with the FIO and the top hat, how can you make wirelessly controlled projects?
So the FIO, the top hat, is actually built for upgrading. That was a prototype. You saw there's a little microphone also on the brim of the hat for other projects. The FIO has a footprint for an XB built into it, so you can actually plug an XB into that and you won't have to worry about hooking up an extra module. If we were using a LilyPad for that, we'd need to add a LilyPad XB shield. So it just add a little bit more. So if you're doing a project that doesn't need to be integrated with conductive thread, a FIO is a great choice because you can actually use the wireless module built into that. Also for the hats, we didn't really need to worry about sewing anything because we could just hot glue everything in the brim of the top hat and then be good. If we really wanted to make it secure, also add a little bit of felt to hold everything in place. We backed the LED strips with felt as well for comfort. So
cool.
That's another option. The FIO may also fit in the shoe project if you have enough room in this heel and you're good at constructing. Then you could have some wireless shoes that actually connect to each other. Right now they're on their own circuits, so their modes are a little bit off sync, but if you wanted to put a wireless module or some other controller in there for that, then you could have everything synced together. So the dress, the hat, the shoes, everything could be controlled by one piece.
Very nice. And can you tell us a little bit about the bow tie as well?
The bow tie, let's see. It was a little hard to get a close-up of the bow tie while it was being worn. So we saw the demonstration, this little animation. This is some example code that comes with the MicroView kit that we ported over to this little kind of touch sensor. So on the edges of the bow tie, you can see this metallic fabric. That's some of the stretch conductive fabric. And I'm actually going to pull the MicroView off so we can see how we built it inside there. This is some female headers on a proto board, all tucked away in here. So we made those so that the MicroView could come off and be used in other projects, and then just snap into the bow tie. So there's a, hidden under this Velcro here, there's a pull-up resistor that's attached to one side of the bow tie is an input and the other is just a ground. So when you connect them with your hands, you're triggering the effects. Also hidden inside here is one of the LilyPad power modules. So we've got an on-off switch, we've got a USB port so we can recharge a battery, and then the battery is actually hidden inside one of these little pockets so that we can tuck it away. We don't have to take the battery in and out of the project, we can just plug it in with USB and recharge it. So there's the battery hidden away. Everything's really compact, and then the MicroView will stick right back on there. So that is
cool.
That one.
And I have another question for you.
Yes.
Let's see, can you paint or stitch the conductive fabric and maintain functionality?
That's a tricky one. So you can paint over the conductive fabric as long as there's the conductive fabric connecting to another piece, and you're not actually painting in between the connections, so you're not painting between the conductive thread hooking up your components and the fabric, then that should be okay. So there are ways to coat the fabric and do decorations or installations that won't affect the electrical properties. It's really up to experimenting with what materials work best. I would always recommend fabric paints if you're painting on the conductive fabric. Anything that's kind of waterproof, water-based paints, and having a circuit that's powered is not a good idea. So anytime you're doing any additional painting or constructing, always unplug your project, and then you can ensure that there's not going to be any short circuits until the paint dries.
Cool. And I actually have one more question for you from earlier today. How well does EL wire work for E-textile projects?
So EL wire is a little bit different. One of the main drawbacks of EL wire is that you need the inverter, and that can be pretty big for wearable projects where you don't have space for the size of it. If you're working on a jacket or things where you have a place to hide it, it's great. The other thing is that they'll actually give you a pretty good shock if any of those wires are exposed. So you want to make sure you're really careful about insulating, use some heat shrink tubing, use some ways to make sure that none of those pieces are exposed when you're wearing them. What I've seen a lot with EL wire is using the sequencers. So I think there's a tutorial up on using one of the sequencers, and you can actually make effects with different lengths of wire. We have a few demos in the building too that we've got some blog posts about how to use the sequencer and how to make different effects. Most of the time you'll just see on and off or blinking, but you can actually control those with code as well.
Very cool.
I think we are ready for our final showpiece. We are going to tally up the votes for the king and queen of the prom and see who the winner is.
Hello there.
Hi.
Hello. Could you please tell me your names?
Carrie?
I'm Tommy.
Well, it's really nice to meet you guys. So, how's the dance been going for you tonight?
Great, absolutely.
Yeah. How about you?
It's wonderful.
Oh, that's great. You look beautiful. Everything looks great. So are we tallying up the
I happen
votes
to have the envelope
for
right here.
prom, queen, and king?
Amanda, if you want to get the crown and the
Yeah, we have the crown and the sash ready for whoever wins.
Whoever
this
might be our lucky couple.
lovely prom.
So I will get those ready for you.
Okay.
If you want to
Got
do
that?
the honors of opening
All
the
right.
envelope.
So I'm going to go ahead and open the magic envelope here. And the winners of the 2015 SparkFun prom are Carrie and Tommy. Oh my gosh, you guys did it! Congratulations! How do you feel?
This is unbelievable.
And you?
This is great.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go ahead and crown you now. As long as I don't trip over this. Oh, oops. Sorry. And we have a beautiful sash for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Let's see. There we go. You guys just look so fantastic. Anything else? Any other comments you want to say?
I'm just really happy to be here.
This has been the best year of my life. Go class 2015, yeah!
They're all gonna laugh at you. How do you feel now? Get out of here. I think she's gonna light things on fire. All right. Well, back to Angela.
So, in case you haven't noticed, Carrie might be my favorite movie. So those were our finale projects. We had some things going on. I'll talk a little bit about that while Amanda joins me. The sash was powered by a LilyPad with some programming. The crown was actually soldered together with LilyPad parts and a coin cell battery holder. And the Carrie dress was more addressable pixels with a little switch in her hip so that she could control when the rage happens. And they had a cascading pattern. That's actually from one of our example code from the addressable LED strip tutorial. So you can go in and try and make your own. And those are also sewed into the lining.
Sorry.
That was my last minute fun project for last night. I thought we needed a big finish for that, so I hope you enjoyed it. But we did what we could with our technology to make the pig's blood happen without being too messy and without short-circuiting our projects. So you never want to add any kind of water or liquid to your projects unless they're really insulated. So we just went with some beads and some SparkFun logos there.
Mm-hmm. Looks really good. It looked so real.
So
here are the projects.
Here are the projects. We can do some close-ups on those if you're interested in seeing how they're put together. So Maya from our education department was our prop master for this. You can't really see the light from this spotlight, but there are little LEDs shining in there. We can turn that off for a second. There we go. There's the full effect. And again, we're using something that's reflecting and diffusing the light, so there's some sparkly paper behind there. And then back here is the battery holder. This is a good example of showcasing you don't have to use conductive thread every time you make a wearable project. You can use really flexible wire, thin wire, whatever's going to make the most sense. So in that carrier dress, both for the sake of time, for building it last night, and also for structural integrity, we used some wire inside there. So just long lengths of wire, some of the silicone wire that we carry, which is really flexible, really strong, great for wearables projects. And then just hid it all behind there because we didn't need to see any of the LEDs, we didn't need to see any of the wiring.
And the dress.
So the dress.
The infamous dress.
If we can get one more close up on there. I'll get this ready. Is another switch, LilyPad switch from earlier. But this time we kind of painted it black so it really blends in, and you just have to move it back and forth. And let's see if we can find that LilyPad right in the inside of the little lining. This is one of those projects where it's really hard to access the LilyPad to turn it on yourself. So she actually had the dress on to begin with, and then she only turned on the light effect when she chose to do the switch here. So that's another option for you if you're looking for ways to trigger your projects. Think about where the controller is going to be, if that's accessible, what you need to do for switches and sensors, and making sure that they make sense for you as a builder to access them, and also for your models. So if I put that somewhere that was completely random or didn't make sense for her to trigger, she wouldn't have been able to do the full effect of the costume.
Awesome.
We'll take that. It's also covered in glitter. Unfortunately, our classroom is a glitter-free zone, I've declared, but I made an exception for prom, so we're going to now be cleaning up some glitter for the rest of the evening. And then our prom king sash is a little blinky. I'll look at the back of that. You might be able to see it from far away, but we can also do a close-up on this one as well. It's just using some LilyPad LEDs in white because they're super bright. They'll shine through the white sash, and then hooking them up and tucking the battery away into some felt. So that's all actually sewn onto a piece of fabric behind the lining so that you can see it right through there.
Very cool. How long did that project take you, the sash?
Maya, how long did that project? Maya from off the screen will.
Oh, yes.
She'll whisper to me.
Pan in on Maya over
She
here.
said about an hour, so it was a really quick project. What she did was, you could see the nice stitching. She planned it out beforehand. We put some code on it and clipped it together with alligator clips to test it out before we implemented it into the sash. So it was actually built on the felt piece, and then we lined it up. Kind of got a couple eyes on it to make sure that it looked good, that everything was working right before she stitched it permanently into the project. So one thing, because all of these were pretty elaborate projects, they were pretty big builds, which you don't see a lot in beginner tutorials, is that it takes a lot of prep work to plan for these kind of projects. So you want to really know what the use case is. So if you're going to a party and you're going to be doing a lot of dancing, you're going to be doing a lot of moving, you're going to be running around, it's going to be a long time that you're wearing this project, you want to make sure that the type of material you're using will hold up for that. So in that case, you might want to switch to wire instead of conductive thread. You might want to do a little bit of extra care with where you position the boards, make sure they're not in any hemlines where they could get stepped on, make sure they're not anywhere where drinks might get spilled on them, or kind of using insulation techniques such as using paints over them, puff paints or glue or extra layers of fabric, just to make sure that everything's going to work. I actually have a fun story from my weekend. I went to a prom fundraiser this weekend, and I kind of tested out a couple of these projects at the party and saw how they worked and saw if they needed any repairs for the show today. The top hat was great, it survived, it didn't get a lot of use, no one was throwing it around, people were very careful with it. The shoes actually held up pretty well because used a lot of hot glue and made sure that the battery and the controller was in a place that wasn't going to get a lot of abuse. So up here on the kind of the ankle, the heel, not where anything is bending, not towards the bottom where you're going to step on things. The only thing that really happened with these shoes was that the hot glue came a little bit loose on some of the crystals, and those could be easily repaired. So taking care to plan out your projects is really important. I know I've said it a billion times, but it does pay off in the end when all your projects survive your party and they don't break. I've been close to tears many times when my project breaks. I'm sure many people in this building also have. So the more that you can kind of experiment with the techniques. We're trying to do more and more tutorials to show you really how to make these sturdy projects, how to make more complicated projects that you can kind of showcase and use all these materials that look like finished projects. This one, I could wear these out and not even have them light up, and they'd be pretty fantastic, I think.
Definitely. These are so cool. I love that covers it up. It's really like such a great idea. You can do that kind of stuff where you can just cover it with one of those.
What I recommend, and what Amanda and I have done a few times, is just going to the craft store and just kind of thinking about what your project is going to be, what kind of things in the beading aisle or the scrapbooking aisle or the fabric aisle would really help to make your LEDs shine even brighter or look even more integrated with the project. Like the flowers, we spent probably a whole lunch break going through the flower section at the craft store and trying to find the best one that would light up, looking at different fabrics. And if you have the ability to bring your prototype with you, that always works great too. So if you had an LED, kind of shine it behind those things and see what happens. Or just get a bunch of things, bring them to your desk and experiment. It doesn't have to be a finished working project. It could just be the kind of LED that you're going to use with a battery and hooked up. Or you could see if you're looking for things that'll fit on these potentiometers. I actually went and got a bunch of different beads and buttons, tried to figure out what would match the dresses, what would help out. The thing with buttons too is you have to do a little hacking to these to get them to work too. So I have some cutters, and you just snip off the button attachments in these and put them on. And they'll fix pretty well with hot glue. For the dress that we showcased today, I think epoxy would have been a better choice because the more you turn them, the more pressure is going to be on that hot glue. But you can get some pretty fancy shiny things for pretty cheap. These are just plastic buttons with some jewels in them, and they make a huge difference when you're integrating those technologies into your projects. LilyPad are made to be sewable, but they're not made always to be fancy because they're made for function. So you can actually make them even fancier with paint like we did with the shoes. So we kind of covered it in paint. We could add some glitter to that, hiding the wires with painting effects or beads and different sequins and things like that. So you can really add to it after. Always do it after you're done with your prototyping stage. So once you know everything's working and affixed and set on the project, then you can go crazy with the decorating. If you have a bedazzler, even better. So I think that might be everything out on the table. Oh, there's one more little hidden away. So another hat project.
Oh, that's cute. Is that for your cat?
This could be for my cat. So my cat likes to dress up. Well, maybe not likes to dress up, but she tolerates being dressed up, as we saw in our Valentine's episode. And here's just another example of using those components in hats. This one has some more beads on it. You can see they're shining through. The LEDs are shining through.
Oh yeah, it's a
pattern.
twinkle kind of effect. That's
and
cool.
This again is a Lily twinkle that's been reprogrammed. So we have a method for reprogramming it using a clip. So you can do a clip right onto there. So I can actually reprogram this once it's built into a project too. And then a coin cell battery holder to power the whole thing. This one's actually stitched through because it was a felt hat. You could stitch through it. For the top hat, it was soldered because that was a very stiff material. It would have been really annoying to try and stitch conductive thread through there. Also, there was enough room to hide wires. Even this, you could hide some wires in if you wanted to. But we did an experiment to see if we could stitch through this glittery felt, and it worked out just fine. And you can't really even see the stitches there because the shiny kind of covers them.
So cute.
So there's a couple different methods for accessories as well as full costume projects. I think that may be everything.
Yeah.
We had a lot of projects today to show you. We didn't really do a build along, but I think it's more important just to kind of see a variety of things happening and what you can do, and then you can reference the tutorials if you want to build the exact same project, or use that as a starting point for your own project as well.
Definitely. Yeah, let us know if you have any cool projects you want to show us. We'd love to see them. So.
One more thing, we also are having a prom contest. It ends, I believe, next week, so you still have time if you were inspired by any of these projects on the show to hack something together and enter the contest. It's open to everyone, not just high school, not just for prom, but any kind of formal wear costume project that you have. And the rules are up on our website. It's called Electrify Your Prom, and we hope that you are inspired to build something, and we'd love to see it. So I think that's all for today's SparkFun Live.
Yeah.
Maybe we could get a zoom in on our John Travolta because he's been hidden away here.
Oh, yes.
Our special guest.
Very sexy.
And we want to thank.
Oh, well, that's my face.
I want to thank everyone around the education department, around the area and the office who helped with our wonderful decorations too. This is probably our most elaborate set for SparkFun Live yet, and they did an awesome job, and it was a big team effort. So a big round of applause for everybody for that. Thank you, everyone. This is my dream come true. I love prom so much. I hated my real prom, but I love this prom so much more.
Well, you did a fantastic job. Everything looked really, really nice. So, good to see you all. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks again.